Hello everyone. In this tutorial we're going to look over if statements. An if statement is basically a condition. So if we're saying if this condition is met, then these statements should be executed. The main format of the if statement is basically if and then open parentheses, and then we're going to write our condition here. Okay, and then whatever statements that we want to execute will be here inside the curly brackets. So let's say that we want the user to enter two numbers, and then we want to print which number is larger. I'm going to create two variables, a and b, and I'm going to ask the user to enter the values of a and b variables. Enter two integers. Okay, cn a and b, and then I'm going to say if a variable is greater than b, in that case we want to print that variable a is greater than b. I'm going to put an underline here. So if this condition is met, if a is greater than b, then in that case this will be printed out. And then I can write another if statement saying that if b is greater than a, then we want to execute this statement which says variable b is greater than a. Okay. And then if both of them are equal, I can say something like if a equal b, then print a is equal to b. But let's run it first and check if our program is working. So I'm going to enter 4 and 5. So it says that variable b is greater than variable a. Cool. Now if I entered 3 and 2, now this time variable a is the greater one. So now we know how if statement works, but what about else statements? Instead of repeating ourselves and saying if and another if statement, we can just simply say else cout variable b is greater than a. So in case the first statement is not executed, the second statement will be executed. And in the case of an else, the program will not check for any conditions. So basically, if this condition is not met, if a is not greater than b, this is going to be executed. Now that includes the case where a is equal to b. So if we want to create three different cases, we can do this. Else if b is greater than a, so we specified that this condition has to be met in order for this to be executed. In this way, this is only going to be executed in case of b is greater than a. Now, why do we use else statements? Why can't we just write if statements? The reason we just don't want to use if statements repeatedly is that when we have 2, 3, or 4 if statements, the program will have to check each time for the condition. So when we first wrote the program, we said if a is greater than b, and then we repeated another if when b is greater than a. Now in that case, the program will check the condition, and then we'll go down there and check the condition again. We don't want to do that. With else statements, we can save time, and in case the first condition is met, then the program will not check the second condition. So if we have here else if third time, and the fourth time, and the fifth time, and like that, and if the first condition is already met, then the program doesn't have to check for all the other else statements. So we can save a lot of time doing that. So that's why it's useful to always use else statements. Don't repeat yourself if you don't need to. Don't write a million if statements. So in the last case, I'm going to say cout A is equal to B, since if the other two conditions are not met, then the only left condition would be if A is equal to B. So we can run it again. If I said 4 and 4, as we see, A is equal to B. So now we know how to use if statements, else statements, and else if statements. With an else statement, you don't specify a condition. This gets executed if the other conditions are not met. We don't have to specify, and we can't specify any condition here. So this is how if statements work, basically.